GM Ryan Poles is expected to get a contract extension to coincide with the contract of Ben Johnson. Is that the right move for the Chicago Bears? We're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're also going to look at a couple of mock drafts for the Chicago Bears and standouts from the Senior Bowl. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all, and I want to start off talking about this. Ryan Poles is now expected to receive a contract extension. It came out yesterday that Ben Johnson's contract is expected to be around 5 years, $13 million per, and that Ryan Poles is set to get a contract extension to coincide with the contract of Ben Johnson. And my thought process on this is very simple. That's what sensible franchises do, right? Ben Johnson said it when it came down to it, that he wants to have alignment with the front office. Of course, it was rumored that he wanted to pick his own GM, things like that. Clearly, that did not happen here, but he does want alignment, and he does not want to come into a job and then your GM changes a year or so after you get your job, which then the direction of the franchise changes. He wants somebody that he can be collaborative with, that can work over years and try to figure this thing out. And so Ryan Poles getting a contract extension, not mad at, right? I think that it's what sensible franchises do when they feel like they're on to something. And the Bears should very well feel like they're on to something. They made a heavy investment in a head coach, making him one of the top 10 paid head coaches right out the gate. That's something that we have not seen there. Reportedly, Ben Johnson's making $13 million a year. Matt Eberflus made $6 million. We've come in and already doubled what Matt Eberflus was getting under. So therefore, you've made a huge investment for your team. And so they want to make sure that they have time to get their vision all on the same page. And I think that this is the right decision. I know that this offseason and with the way that the Bears season finished, there's been a lot of talk around what the Bears aren't, what Ryan Poles didn't do well, and that's understandable. You have to be able to hold accountability to that, right? But I think overall, like, Ryan Poles has done a lot of good here for the Chicago Bears. The wins haven't resulted yet. When you look at the finance aspect of it, moving off from players at the right time, those type of things, right? And so Ryan Poles has some things he definitely needs to do better, and that's why I think that, hopefully being collaborative with Ben Johnson is going to help that. Especially in the evaluation of the offensive line. Dan Rouchar, right? He's going to help with that. So the Bears they have things that they need to figure out, but Ryan Poles getting a contract extension, I'm not mad at. I don't have any issues with. I think that's what you want to do, right? You have your head coach in here. You want to give these guys time to build out what they want to build out and execute their vision, the vision that they're going to have collaboratively. And, that's overarching with Kevin Warren as well. Even some people in this offseason as well. Oh, Kevin Warren's overstepping. Why is Kevin Warren involved? Now that we've sit there and executed, some people have kind of turned the tides on that as well, but that's just the nature of Bears fans. Bears fans are very fickle and up and down. It is what it is. But so we got some things that we need to figure out. We got some things, of course, that we need to execute and get together. And Ryan Poles getting contract extension is not something that's a shock or a surprise to me. It's not something that's upsetting to me. I know not everybody's going to agree with that. There's going to have difference of opinion, but to get Ryan Poles in here, to give him another 5 years to now execute this vision with Ben Johnson as the head coach, with your quarterback that you drafted in Caleb Williams, and hey, let's see what the vision holds for that. Hopefully it's a lot more wins sooner than what we had, right? So that's what it all comes down to, is getting that win on the football field. And to do that, you got to have people in the right position and in the right place. And so, Ben Johnson's contract details coming out per Courtney Cronin yesterday on 5 years, $13 million per. It's all fine and dandy. But the thing that we need to get more importantly than anything is we need to start getting some of these football decisions correctly. Now, one of the guys that have helped Ryan Poles make some of these decisions is Ian Cunningham. And the Jacksonville Jaguars put in a formal request yesterday to interview Ian Cunningham for their general manager position. This is after Ian Cunningham earlier in this offseason interview with the Tennessee Titans. He was a finalist for that job for the second time. He ended up not getting it. And this comes per Albert Breer, where he says this. Cunningham, who has been with the Bears since 2020, has interviewed for vacant GM jobs. He was a finalist for the Tennessee Titans job earlier this year and 2023. Cunningham was also passed over for the Washington Commanders head of football ops, which went to Adam Peters, and that now the Jaguars have been mulling over this for a couple of weeks, and so Ian Cunningham is a somebody they want to interview for that position. So if Ian Cunningham does leave for that, the Bears get 2 third-round picks, compensatory picks, one in this year's draft, one in the next year's draft. That is something that could definitely help the Chicago Bears in the 3rd round. So we'll see what happens there. Same thing that we said when it came down to the Tennessee Titans job. If Ian Cunningham leaves, great. I hope that he goes on and have success, except for when his team faces off against the Chicago Bears. But it does seem like eventually, whether it's this offseason or not, Ian Cunningham is eventually going to get one of these jobs. I struggle to think of somebody who has gone through as many interviews and been a finalist as many times as Ian Cunningham has that just never gets one of these jobs. He's more than likely going to get one sooner rather than later. And like I said, the Bears will be compensated for it if he does leave. So there you go on that one. But with that said, let's move on to some of my favorite things to talk about. And, of course, that's the draft. That's free agency. Actually, things that are going to help this team. Guys know the coaching search talk. Hey, listen, it killed me. It absolutely killed me. But with that said, man, the Senior Bowl did happen. And there were some standouts in the Senior Bowl that could definitely help the Chicago Bears. One of them is Langdon Jackson. This is a guy who played in Arkansas. He had apparently some struggle during the practices of the Senior Bowl, but in the game, he had multiple sacks on the day. He also had a strip sack as well on Jackson Dart that created a turnover. He's 6'7", and the people are thinking he could end up a first-round pick. Now, if he does end up a first-round pick, it's probably going to put him outside the range of the Bears, but the Bears do need help at edge rusher, and that is a guy that definitely showed out at that Senior Bowl that could be on the Bears draft board. Next up, Savion Jones, the defensive end there as well, out of LSU. He made a really good play in the run and pass game during that as well. He had some good stops early on. Then he had, he also had a sack on Taylor Elgersma. And so he showed a lot of versatility, right? And he is right now slated to be a day 2 pick. So that is somebody that if the Bears do want to address their defensive line, Savion Jones could very well be that pick for the Chicago Bears. This is a guy with a good motor, right? Now, of course, a lot of Bears fans are asking what the future of Austin Booker is going to be, but it's not hard. It doesn't hurt to add talent at every level. 6'6", 280 pounds. This dude's a physical specimen and a beast. So he is somebody that could be on the Bears board as well. The next player that we want to talk about as well, because as I've said before, I want to see the Bears draft a safety, is Sebastian Castro. This is another guy out of Iowa who showed a lot in that Senior Bowl as well. And the Bears do need a safety. So I don't know if they spend money on a free agent safety, but they do need a safety. I think you want to start preparing for life without Kevin Byard. You want to start getting some injury insurance, of course, for Jaquan Brisker. And Sebastian Castro is a guy that definitely shapes up to be that. 5'11", though, 205 pounds, 1 interception, 1 pass deflected in his senior year in football. But this is a guy that has the motor. This is a guy that has a scheme fit as well that I think could definitely help the Chicago Bears. He makes great plays in the open field, very versatile as well for the Iowa Hawkeyes team. So I think that he's definitely somebody in the middle rounds as well that can definitely go and help this team, in what they're trying to accomplish. Another safety in this that I want to talk about as well, Caleb Ranshaw, another guy here that he got 1 interception in the game as well for the national team. This is another guy that in the open field is pretty damn good. He's slated to be a day 3 pick and a pick that I think can really help the Chicago Bears in a lot of ways as well. So not mad at him at all being on the board here for the Chicago Bears if they decide to go that direction. The question, of course, is if they do draft a safety, where do they feel comfortable drafting safety? What other positions do they want to take care of first before they draft a safety? But this is a guy that 2 pass deflected in the senior year. He's 6 foot, 196 pounds. He's a junior. So he's a guy that definitely can help the Chicago Bears. And then there are a couple of wideouts that stood out as well in the Senior Bowl that I think could be on the Bears board. Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver here, is a guy that could be on the Bears board. Now, we don't know if the Bears, how comfortable they're going to feel with Tyler Scott, which is a big question that a lot of Bears fans are asking, especially with us needing more than likely Keenan Allen's going to be gone, so we're going to need another third wide out. And Jaden Higgins is a guy that, even if you do want to see what Tyler Scott can bring, this guy's 6'4", 215 pounds out of Iowa State. He had 87 receptions for 1,183 yards and 9 touchdowns. This is a guy that, listen, if the Bears do want to go wide out, he's slated to go day 2 in the draft. So if they deal with their offensive line early, I would not mind. If you add him to DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, you still got Tyler Scott here and Jaden Higgins. I'm telling y'all right now, that is a wide receiver core. Of course, it doesn't have the name cachet as like a Keenan Allen, of course, but this is another guy that has the possibility to take the top off the defense as well. And you put him behind this offense that we're building here, and you put him with other guys, I really like him there as well. The other one, Jack Beck, as well, another guy here that could make some sense. Now, he was named the Senior Bowl MVP. He was slated to be a day 3 selection. I don't know how much being the Senior Bowl MVP can change the direction and the perception of you, right? But I do think that this is another guy who, hey, listen, he got the skill set. He got the talent. He has the body. You bring him in to help shore up that wide receiver core. I'm not mad at it at all. Again, slated to be a day 3 pick. When you look at him in last year in college, 62 receptions, 1,034 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6'2", 215. I like out of TCU as well. I like the prospect of bringing him in here for the Chicago Bears and what that could mean for the long term here for him as well. This is another guy that he just the good football chops, man. It just makes sense if the Bears were to bring him in. I think he makes a lot of sense for what this team is, what this team could be, and he can help solidify that. Now, the wideout is something that we'll see how they're going to. It depends on how Ben Johnson plans on, of course, using Cole Kmet and things like that. But these guys are really guys that do, I think, stand out a lot for the Chicago Bears. But with that said, we do have more and more mock drafts coming in as well, saying that what the Chicago Bears are going to do in this. This one comes from ESPN. They did a 2-round mock draft. The Bears, of course, were on that. In round 1, they had the Bears picking Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, the offensive tackle there. I talked about him a couple of episodes ago. I know there are some injury concerns with him, of course, but this is a guy that, hey, people are saying that if the injury concerns go away there, he could be one of the best offensive linemen taken overall in this draft, right? You take him at the left tackle spot, of course. You have Darnell Wright and him then at the left and right tackles. You have 2 really good pillars there as well. And, Braxton Jones is fine. He's a serviceable starter. But as I've said before, I would like to personally see Braxton Jones move to more being a depth piece because I think he can be excellent then. Banks Jr. would be an instant upgrade over that. Of course, there'll still be a competition. I'm not saying they'll just name him starter day 1, even though they should. But I think that you want to help protect Caleb Williams. Kelvin Banks Jr. makes a lot of sense there, so I'm not too surprised at all that they have him drafting him because Will Campbell, it may not be on the board, right? In that mock draft, they had him going 4th to the New England Patriots. Now, with round 2 is where things start getting a little bit interesting. In this mock draft, they had the Bears selecting with their 39th overall selection, Omarion Hampton, the running back out of North Carolina. Now, we know that there's been some talk over running back, and the more and more that there is talk, the more I do expect the Bears to draft a running back in this draft. 281 carries, 1,660 yards with 16 touchdowns. He's a junior, 6 foot, 220. I like the concept of him pairing in the backfield with him, DeAndre Swift, of course, Roschon Johnson. You have a nice mix of size, speed, and everything in that. Thing that I like about Hampton as well here is that his work in the passing game. And that's going to be important under Ben Johnson as well. Last year, he had 373 yards and 38 receptions and 2 touchdowns. The year prior to that, 222 yards. So this is still a guy that can be used in both the passing game and the running game. He's not a one-trick pony at all. And that's something that I think is going to be really important for what Ben Johnson wants to bring here as well. So I'm not mad at the Bears drafting a running back with one of their second-round picks, depending upon what they do in free agency, what they do in the first round to help shore up that offensive line. And I think Omarion Hampton would be a really solid selection here for the Chicago Bears, if I'm being 100% honest with you guys. And then with the second pick in the second round at pick number 41, the ESPN had them selecting Tyreek Williams out of Ohio State. I've made no, I've not hidden at all my loyalty to OSU. In this podcast, I'm an OSU guy. It is what it is when it comes down to that. He's 21, 6'3", 327 pounds. This guy has a motor, right? 2.5 sacks last season in college. So I know that's not going to jump out the stat sheet to many Bears fans, because Bears fans, they want to see those huge sack totals and things like that. But when you look at it over his career, his freshman year, 5 sacks, sophomore year, 1, 2023, 3 sacks, 2.5. This guy can get to the quarterback, but outside of that, what I like about him the most as well is that he is a dual threat guy, right? 11.5 sacks in 4 years, 46 tackles in the 2024 season. I tell you what, I get it that we've drafted Zach Pickens and Javon Dexter over years. Zach Pickens is still a guy. We're still trying to wait and see what Zach Pickens and who Zach Pickens is going to turn into. But I tell you what, 6'3", 327, this is a guy that could be a force. And when you look at learning behind Andrew Billings and maybe even eventually taking over for Billings, this is a guy that I like. And I like the combination of him and Javon Dexter on that interior defensive line. So I'm not mad at the selection here. So just to recap, ESPN in their mock draft have the Chicago Bears selecting Kelvin Banks Jr. with the pick number 10. With pick number 39, they have them drafting Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. And then with the 41st pick, Tyreek Williams out of Ohio State. I'm not mad at that selection at all. I actually think that's a pretty well-rounded first opening 2 rounds for you, and you got to get to work in the other round. So let me know what you guys think on all that as well down below. Now, before we go, I know I touched on this on the live stream a little bit yesterday, but that did not get posted as a podcast. I dropped the ball there, my bad. But there have been talks, of course, in the last couple of days. Cooper Kupp and Myles Garrett have popped up on trade blocks, right? Myles Garrett requested a trade. Cooper Kupp is up for a trade. And that has naturally led some Chicago Bears fans to asking, should the Bears be making moves for these guys? As far as Myles Garrett, I have a very simple mindset on it. I don't think that the Bears are in a place to trade for a player like Myles Garrett. It's going to take first-round picks and high picks, right, to get a guy like Myles Garrett on top of eating into almost a third of your available cap space. Keep in mind, veteran offensive linemen tend to be expensive. So I'm not for right now. I don't think the Bears are in a place where they can make a trade that's going to take up high draft capital and eat up into that much of your cap space at a time where we need to be focused on fixing this offensive line. Now, I'm not against, and it's not that I don't think the Bears may make a veteran signing. I think that you got guys there that can make a lot of sense for the Chicago Bears, right? But I think they can also be cheaper, and then you can develop Austin Booker. You can draft other players. So I'm not right now in the mindset or the place where I think the Bears can take the. I wouldn't say the risk. Risk wouldn't be right. Myles Garrett, we know he's a beast, and we know that him and Montez Sweat would be really good on that side of the football. But I just don't think that the Bears are in a position to where they can go after those guys, in my personal opinion. I don't think that you can do the Cooper Kupp as well. He's a guy that's going to take a lot of draft assets to probably get into. And as I just talked about, there are some wide receivers in this class that you can go after. Not to say that they're going to be Cooper Kupp. Like, that would be ridiculous. But you already have solid guys on this team. So I don't think that you have to do that, man. I don't think you have to do that. I think overall you got to look at it in this manner and in this way, right? It's about managing assets. This isn't just Madden. This isn't just about going out and just adding the most talent. It's also about how that talent balances out. And you would be cutting into assets for luxuries again, where we got to fix our offensive line. I think our wide receiver core can be perfectly fine if we get a better offensive line. Caleb Williams needs to take a step up as well. I don't think that the trade for Cooper Kupp needs to take that much out of it. Myles Garrett, a hell of a talent, an amazing talent. I would love to see him in a Bears uniform. But I think where the Bears are right now, those assets are better associated to help shore up this offensive line and other things to get the team in a better place overall. The trade for Myles Garrett, to me, is the type of trade that you would make if you have those other things solidified and you're willing to lose out on some future assets because you're ready to be a contender right now. The Bears aren't ready to be that right now. So therefore, I don't think that they can take the risk to make a move for Myles Garrett, to make a move for Cooper Kupp right now. I just don't think that they can do that. The Bears did that last year with Keenan Allen. We saw that work instead of those assets going towards some offensive line help and depth. So I think that that's the thing that you have to look at. I get it. These names are exciting. These names are fun. I would love to see Cooper Kupp and or Myles Garrett in the Bears uniform. But I think right now we need to keep our mind and keep our focus on the businesses ahead. We talked about Ryan Poles losing sight of fixing the offensive line for skill positions or the flash positions. We can't do that ourselves while we're calling that out. We have to get that together, I think personally, and we got to get that all on the same page. So that's my personal opinion on it. I know not everybody's going to share that. That's perfectly fine. I love to hear how you guys feel on it, on the potential acquisition. I'll tell you guys how to leave a voicemail in here towards the end. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.